A very good morning, dear children. Today we are going to see the remaining part of the chapter number 1, that is laws of motion. So let us see first of all, children, Newton's laws of motion. What could be the reason for the following? A static object does not move without the application of a force. So in the first picture you are looking, children, that the boy is applying the force to move that static object, that is sofa. Sofa is a static object because when we are applying force, then only that sofa is changing its position or it is moving. Okay. Then in the second picture, the force which is sufficient to lift a book from a table is not sufficient to lift the table. Okay. So whichever force we are applying for taking that book, okay, or for holding that book, that force is not sufficient to hold the table because table is of big size and having more weight, whereas this book is having less size or it applies less force or it requires less force, and due to that, that is force is different for both the object. Now in the third example, fruits on a tree fall down when its branches are shaken. So when we are shaking the branches of a tree, then only fruits are falling down. Then in the fourth picture you are looking, children, when electric fan we are switching off, okay, or when we are switch off the electric fan, then it's rotating for some time even after we are putting the button, that is switch off. Okay. Then if we look all these examples and their reasons also, then we are realize that objects have some inertia. Okay, means they are not changing its place themselves. We have learned that inertia is related to the mass of the object. Newton's first law of motion describes this very properly, and therefore this Newton's first law is also called as law of inertia. All instances or all the examples of inertia are the examples of Newton's first law of motion. Now let us see Newton's first law of motion. For that we have to see one activity. Fill a glass with sand. Keep a piece of cardboard on it. Keep a 5 rupee coin on the cardboard. Now strike the cardboard using your finger. Observe what happens. So here in the picture you are looking, there is a glass. In that glass there is you can take either water or either sand also. So when we are giving jerk to that cardboard, then coin falls into the glass. This is because the inertia of the coin maintains its state of rest and it falls down into the glass due to gravity, and due to gravity only that coin is falling inside the glass. Now balanced and unbalanced force. You must have played tug of war, children. When we are applying force to both the sides in the tug of war, then there is a balanced force. But when that center of the rope is going or moving in one direction, okay, then we can say that there is a unequal force is acting, that is unbalanced force is acting, and wherever net force or greater force is there, that rope can be pulled that side. Okay, so applied, this force can be applied in the direction of greater force and this rope shifts in that direction. So such example will be the example of balanced and unbalanced force. Means in short, when the force applied by both the teams in tug of war that is same, then that will be balanced force. And when one team is applying more force and one is applying less force, then there will be a unbalanced force. Now let us see, children, what is the difference between balanced and unbalanced force. So first of all, let us see balanced force. When two or more forces acting on an object are equal in all directions, then that is called as a balanced force. Whereas when two or more unequal force act on an object, okay, and that is moving in the direction with more force, then such type of force is called as unbalanced force. Now In case of balanced force, there is no movement, but in unbalanced force, there is a movement. And the net force can be calculated in unbalanced force, that is difference between these forces. Here the net force is coming in balanced force, that is 0 only. Okay. Whereas in unbalanced force, the net force will be the difference between two forces. Now let us see what is meant by inertia. The inability of an object to change its state of motion on its own. That is called as inertia. Means the inability means that object is not changing its motion or state of motion on its own. That is called as a inertia. Now let us see statement for Newton's first law of motion. An object continues to remain at rest or in a state of uniform motion along a straight line unless an external unbalanced force acts on it. Means that object will be at remain will be in a state of rest or in the motion also, but until and unless we are not applying any unbalanced force on that object. Now, in the Newton's first law of motion, we can say that when an object is at rest or in uniform motion along a straight line, it does not mean that there is no force acting on it. Actually, there are a number of forces acting on that object, but they are cancel one another so that the net force, that is total force, can be zero. Newton's first law explains the phenomena of inertia, that is the inability of an object to change its state of motion on its own. It also explains the unbalanced force which cause a change in its state of an object at rest or in the uniform motion. Now let us see Newton's second law of motion. Ask your friend to drop one plastic and one rubber ball from the same height. You catch the balls. Which ball was easier to catch and why? So the plastic ball was easier to catch because the mass of the plastic ball is much less than that of the rubber ball. So when the velocity of the both the balls are same, but there is a less impact of lighter object than that of heavy object. Means lighter object are easy to catch than that of heavy object, and due to that plastic ball will be easily catched by us, but rubber ball it will take little more efforts to catch because it is having high weight. Now let us see second activity, children. Ask your friend to throw a ball towards you at low speed. Try to catch it. Now ask your friend to throw the same ball at high speed towards you. Try to catch it. Which ball could you catch with greater ease and why? So the ball at slow speed could be caught with greater ease relative to the ball at high speed. A ball with slow speed produces less impact than a ball with high speed. So due to that, slow speed ball can be easily catch than that of the high speed ball. So the effect of one object striking another object depends both on the mass of the former object and its velocity in the Newton's second law of motion. This means that effect of a force depends on a property related to both mass and velocity of the striking object. So this property was termed as momentum by the scientist Newton. So now let us take more information about momentum. Momentum has magnitude as well as direction. Its direction is same as that of velocity. In SI system, the unit of momentum is kilogram into meter per second because momentum is the product of mass and velocity. Mass unit is kilogram and velocity unit is meter per second. So due to that, momentum's unit in SI system is kilogram meter per second, while in CGS system it is gram centimeter per second because in CGS system, mass unit is gram and this velocity unit is centimeter per second. If an unbalanced force applied on an object causes a change in its momentum. So when there is an unbalanced force is acting on the object, then there is a change in the momentum. The force necessary to cause a change in the momentum of an object depends upon the rate of change of momentum. So whichever force necessary for the change in momentum, that depends upon the rate of change of momentum. Now few more information about momentum. Momentum is the product of mass and velocity, and momentum is denoted by the symbol capital P. So therefore P is equal to m into v, where m is the mass of the object and v is the velocity of an object. Then momentum is a vector quantity, because for momentum we require magnitude as well as direction, and due to that momentum is a vector quantity. Now next, that is statement of Newton's second law of motion. The rate of change of momentum is proportional to the applied force, and the change of momentum occurs in the direction of force. So this momentum is proportional to the applied force, and this change of momentum occurs in the direction of force only. Now let us derive the formula for applied force. Okay. So suppose an object of mass m has an initial velocity u. When a force F is applied in the direction of its velocity for time t, then its velocity becomes v. Okay. So therefore the initial momentum of the object is equal to m into u, and its final momentum after time t is equal to m into v. So therefore rate of change of momentum is equal to change in momentum upon time. So initial momentum, that time we have to consider initial velocity, that is mass into initial velocity. So initial momentum will be m into u. Then in case of final momentum, we have to consider final velocity, that is m into v. Okay. So change in momentum upon time. So therefore rate of change of momentum is equal to mv minus mu upon t. Okay. So that is equal to m into bracket v minus u. Here I have taken this m as a common factor, because that is common for this initial momentum as well as final momentum. So in the inside the bracket v minus u upon t. Now this v minus u upon t, that is the formula for acceleration, because acceleration formula we know, children, change in velocity upon time. So therefore rate of change of momentum is equal to m into a. Now according to Newton's second law of motion, rate of change of momentum is proportional to the applied force. That is capital P is directly proportional to applied force, that is capital F. But instead of momentum, we can write now m into a. So therefore m into a is directly proportional to applied force, that is capital F. Now we have to remove this proportionality symbol, children. So we have to use, instead of this, K, that is constant of proportionality. So therefore F is equal to K into MA, where K is the constant of proportionality and its value is 1. And therefore F is equal to M into A, that is applied force is equal to mass into acceleration. Now let us see, children, units for this force. In SI system, the unit of force is Newton. So Newton can be defined as the force necessary to cause an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in an object of mass 1 kilogram is called as 1 Newton. So therefore 1 Newton is equal to 1 kilogram into 1 meter per second square. In the CGS system, the unit of force is dyne. So therefore dyne is the force necessary to cause an acceleration of 1 centimeter per second square in an object of mass 1 gram is called as 1 dyne. So therefore 1 dyne is equal to 1 gram into 1 centimeter per second square. So these are the two units for force. That is, in SI system, force unit is Newton, and in the CGS system, that force unit is dyne. Now let us see, children, use your brain power question based on this Newton's second law of motion. Why is there a thick bed of sand for a high jumper to fall on after his jump? So in a high jump athletic event, the athletes are made to fall on a thick bed of sand because as the sand is loose, it slides when an athlete falls on it. And due to this, there is a increase the time taken by an athlete to come to the rest on making a jump. And therefore, there is a decrease in the rate of change of momentum. And hence, the force on the athlete becomes reduces the chance of injury to the athlete. And due to that, there is a thick bed of sand for a high jumper to fall on after his jump. Now let us see one activity, children, before starting this Newton's third law of motion. Take a plastic boat and make a hole at its rear end. Inflate a balloon and fix it on the hole in the boat. Release the boat in water. What happens to the boat as the air in the balloon escapes slowly, and why? So when we are taking this plastic boat and when we are making hole to this plastic boat, and then when we are putting a inflated balloon and fixing to this hole, then when we are releasing this plastic boat in water, then as the air in the balloon escapes slowly, the boat moves in opposite direction. Means the air is removing on one side and that boat is going on another side. Okay, so they both are in the opposite direction. This is due to the force exerted by the air on the boat, and this force will be due to the force exerted by the air. We have learnt about the force and its effect on an object through Newton's first and second law of motion, children. However, in the nature, force cannot come alone. Force is the reciprocal action between two objects. Force are always applied in pairs. When one object applies a force on another object, the latter object also simultaneously applies a force on the former object. So the force between two objects are always equal and opposite. And this idea is expressed in Newton's third law of motion. So the force applied by the first object is called as action force, whereas the force applied by the second object on the first is called as reaction force. Now let us see statement of Newton's third law of motion. Every action force has an equal and opposite reaction force which acts simultaneously. Means every two objects shows action force as well as reaction force, but that is in equal and opposite direction. Okay, and they are acting simultaneously. Now let us see, children, important points related to this action and reaction force. Action and reaction are terms that express the force. This force act in pair and one force cannot exist by itself. Action and reaction force acts simultaneously, and action and reaction force act on different object. Means they do not act on the same object only, and they are not cancelled with each other's effect. Now let us see, children, use your brain power question. First, while hitting a ball with a bat, the speed of the bat decreases. Second, the gun recoils, that is moves backward when a bullet is fired. third, mechanism of firing of a rocket. So how will you explain this with the help of Newton's third law of motion? Now let us see explanation of these examples one by one. So in the first picture, you are looking children, while hitting a ball with a bat, the speed of the bat decreases. And this we have to explain with the help of Newton's third law of motion. So here the bat exerts a force on the ball, that is action. And the ball exerts a force of equal magnitude but opposite direction on the bat at the same time, and that is a reaction force, and due to that obviously speed of the bat decreases. So when a baseball is there and it is acting the force on the bat to the left, that is a action force, and that bat is also forcing, okay, to that ball that is in right direction. So there is a reaction force, and this speed of the bat decreases because there is a reaction force, okay, that is there. And first of all there is a action force. So this action force of equal magnitude and this in opposite direction on the bat towards the reaction force, and due to that speed of the bat decreases. Now second example, a gun recoils, that is that gun is moving backward when a bullet is fired. So when the gun exerts a force on the bullet, that is action force, and the bullet at the same time exerts a force of equal magnitude but opposite direction on the gun, and due to that gun recoils, means there is action as well as reaction force is there. So when bullet is going from this gun, then that time there is action force, and when this gun is recoil, means that is going back, okay, so there is a reaction force, and due to that this gun is moving backward due to this reaction force. Now let us study children this third example, that is mechanism of firing of a rocket on the basis of Newton's third law of motion. So launching of a rocket is based on Newton's third law of motion, because when the fuel in the rocket is ignited, it burns as a result of chemical reaction, and the compressed hot gases are thrown out with a tremendous force in downward direction through a small opening in the tail of the rocket. At the same time, there is an escape of gas in equal and opposite force of reaction, okay, and the rocket in the forward direction. As this force is greater than the net force due to gravity and air resistance, the velocity of the rocket increases at as it moves upwards. So there is a change in velocity or increase in velocity when there is a formation of these hot gases due to ignition of this rocket, and due to that this rocket is going in the upward direction and that fire is towards the downward direction, okay. So they are in the equal and opposite reaction force is there, okay. Now let us see next topic, that is law of conservation of momentum. So suppose an object is there, a object that is having mass m1 and initial velocity u1. Then object b has mass m2 and initial velocity u2. So according to the formula for momentum, initial momentum of A is equal to m1 u1 and initial momentum of object B is equal to m2 u2. Suppose these two objects are colliding with each other. So the force on A due to B will be capital F1. This force will cause acceleration in A and its velocity will become v1. So there is a force and this force is causing acceleration in A object and that velocity will become v1. So therefore momentum of object A after collision will be m1 v1. Therefore according to Newton's third law of motion, A object also exerts equal force on B object, but that is in opposite direction. So there is also a change in momentum of object B. So therefore velocity after collision will be V2. So therefore momentum of object B after collision is equal to m2 V2. If F2 is the force that acts on object B, then F2 is equal to negative F1. So F2 is the force that is acting on object B. So therefore F2 is equal to negative F1. This is equation number 1. But we know, children, that is applied force is the product of mass and acceleration. That is F is equal to m into A. So for object A, F1 is equal to m1 A1, and for object B, F2 is equal to m2 A2. So therefore equation 1 becomes, so we have to put the respective values of F1 and F2. So m2 A2 is equal to negative m1 A1. But A, that is acceleration, is equal to V minus U upon T. That is change in velocity upon time. So therefore m2 into V2 minus U2 upon T, and that is equal to negative m1 into V1 minus U1 upon T. So this acceleration is for object 1 and acceleration for object 2. So we have put here values of both the acceleration, that is A2 and A1. Now after that, when we will look here, children, that is left hand side and right hand side, we will understand there is a T is a common factor. So that T will cancel. So therefore M2 into V2 minus U2, that is equal to negative M1 into V1 minus U1. So therefore M2 V2 minus M2 U2 is equal to negative M1 V1 plus M1 U1. Okay. So negative M1 V1 plus M1 U1, because here negative M1 will multiply with negative U1. So that will be positive M1 U1. Now we have to take this initial momentum on one side and final momentum on one side. So M2 V2, we have to take this negative M1 V1 on left hand side. So obviously this right hand side's negative M1 V1 will become positive. So therefore M2 V2 plus M1 V1 is equal to M1 U1 as it is. Now this negative M2 U2, from left hand side it will come to right hand side. So after M1 U1 there will be positive sign, that is plus M2 U2. So therefore the magnitude of final momentum is equal to the magnitude of total initial momentum. In short, final momentum is equal to initial momentum. So this law is called as law of conservation of momentum. Now, when no external force acts on two interacting objects, then their total momentum remains constant. That is, it does not change. Okay. So, this law is called as law of conservation of momentum. Means when any external force is acting on the two objects, then their total momentum remains constant. Means it does not changes. Such type of law is called as law of conservation of momentum. Now let us see, children, corollary of Newton's third law of motion. Corollary means that is reverse of this Newton's third law of motion. So according to Newton's third law of motion, we can say that every action force has an equal and opposite reaction force and which acts simultaneously. So corollary we can write, that is reverse. When two objects collide, then the total momentum before collision is equal to total momentum after collision. So let us calculate here, children, value of V2, that is final velocity, okay, or recoil velocity we have to calculate. So let us consider a bullet of mass is M1 and that is fired from a gun of mass M2. So here velocity is V1. So therefore its momentum will be M1 V1. Now before firing the bullet, both the gun and the bullet are at rest and hence their total initial momentum becomes 0. So according to the law of conservation of momentum, total final momentum also will be 0, because total initial momentum is equal to total final momentum according to law of conservation of momentum. So if total final initial momentum is 0, then obviously total final momentum will also be 0. So thus the forward moving bullet causes the gun to move backward after firing, and this backward motion of the gun is called as recoil. Okay. So before firing, both this bullet and gun are at rest position, that is at stationary position. Okay. And after firing, this bullet is going front, means bullet has getting motion, and that time this gun is also recoil, means that gun is also moving backward. Now, according to law of conservation of momentum, we can write, children, total final momentum is equal to total initial momentum. So here initial momentum is 0. So we can write m2 v2 plus m1 v1 is equal to 0. So here we have to calculate the velocity of recoil, that is v2. So therefore this m2 v2 will be on this side only. This m1 v1 will go to right hand side. So it will be negative. So m2 v2 is equal to negative m1 v1. Or we can calculate the value in terms of v2. So v2 is equal to negative m1, and this m2 is multiplied to v2. So negative m1 upon negative m1 upon m2 into v1. So that is the formula for final velocity. Okay, or it is also called as recoil velocity or velocity of recoil. So as the mass of the gun is much higher than the mass of the bullet, the velocity of the gun is much smaller than the velocity of the bullet. The magnitude of the momentum of the bullet and that of the gun are equal, and their directions are also opposite. And due to that, the total momentum remains constant. Thank you, children, for watching the video and for your attention.